No one more plugged in than Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, Football Night in America. Mike, would that stun you if Art Rooney said, sorry, Mike, I'm telling you what to do, Matt Canada's one and done as offensive coordinator?
It wouldn't stun me at all. I think, I think that Art Rooney is a lot more involved in the management of the team than most people realize. He's not as open about it and as flamboyant about it as Jerry Jones would be, but I think that Art Rooney II is extremely involved and I think makes a lot of the decisions, whether it's the retirement of Bruce Arians from a decade ago, whether it's the hiring of Todd Haley, who came in to replace Arians. I think a lot of those decisions are either made or ultimately approved by or disapproved by Art Rooney. And, hey, that's the prerogative of being the owner of the team. You get to make those decisions if you want to.
Mike, we could base our opinion of him as a football man maybe on some of the moves you just talked about, but does he have the reputation for being as football savvy as Dan Rooney did?
Well, look, the ultimate test is the pelts on the wall. However, the team continues to be extremely successful relative to all other teams. We don't see the Steelers have the same valleys that most franchises inevitably experience. They've been contenders for all these years. You know, to have three coaches since 1969, one of the reasons you're able to pull that off is the team's pretty damn good year in and year out. But at some point, yeah, Art II needs to get his own Super Bowl trophy that his team put together. And, you know, it's funny, the Maras are like this too. It's kind of a low-key, much more involved than anyone realizes in the team, the opposite of Jerry Jones, but still very involved. It's the family business. It's not like it's some hobby like it is for Stephen Ross in Miami, who doesn't even live there and just barnstorms in for games. This is something that Art Rooney is working every single day, and it's the prerogative of the owner to do it. But yeah, it would be nice for Art, and I'm sure he'd love to do. I mean, he wants to win the Super Bowl every year, and I think when he says it, he means it. A lot of owners say it just because they know it sells tickets, and you have to say it. I think he means it, and once he gets his Super Bowl or two, then it helps complete the set that the family's put together over the years.
Mike, would you almost expect it then? I mean, the offense was so putrid, and it did better when Roethlisberger went off script and kind of improvised. Do you almost anticipate that Rooney is going to tell Tomlin to get rid of Canada?
I think the challenge with evaluating the 2021 season is that the team was basically a Frankenstein monster of all sorts of different parts. And I don't know if you guys have talked about this, if you've heard this. I know from, you know, the grapevine that I'm kind of generally plugged into, they got thrown for a loop when Ben Roethlisberger agreed to come back at $4 million less than he was supposed to make. I think that they were hoping they were making him an offer that he wouldn't accept so they could move on. The fact that they made the playoffs is amazing under the circumstances, and I give Ben Roethlisberger and the coaching staff credit for recognizing that it's not 2011 anymore, that he can't run away from pressure the way they used to, that he had a much more limited window to get rid of the football, and he adapted because we saw what was happening earlier in the year. When he would try to run away from pressure, it was like a Chevy Chase pratfall from the original days of SNL. It was not good. And they operated within that. That's one thing that I think Mike Tomlin is very underrated about, getting his team to color within the lines. Wherever the lines are, he figures out how to get his team to color within those lines, and that's what they did. But I don't think they expected to be in that situation. Now, I don't know who the quarterback would have been, and I think they're in a much better position this year if they want to be selective and coy and sit back and wait for a veteran to realize, hey, life could be pretty good for me as the quarterback of the Steelers. So, you know, anytime you get a new coordinator, you're starting from scratch, you're asking for trouble, you've got new terminology, you've got all kinds of things. And I think it makes sense to consider giving this current offense and this coordinator another year where maybe you get a quarterback who's better suited to run it. You have guys who are more comfortable with it come next year, and you ultimately have a quarterback who is more physically capable than Ben Roethlisberger was in the last year of his career.
Mike, if Art Rooney, though, to go back to this, because now what you said just opened my eyes a little bit, if you think that might have been a situation where they were making him an offer they hoped he'd refuse and they were thrown for a loop when he didn't, Roethlisberger, if Art Rooney does have maybe more sway than the public would otherwise think, why did he make him an offer he thought he would refuse in the first place? Just say we're cutting the cord here. That's it.
Well, because it becomes, I think, a political reality of running a football team in a city where there was a certain amount of of affection for Ben Roethlisberger. And it's amazing how things changed from 2010 until now. I vividly recall listening to the shows in Pittsburgh at the time of the suspension and people calling in with every potential grievance they had about they ran into Ben Roethlisberger at the Subway store and he was rude to them or whatever.
Yep.
He really did a good job of securing redemption for himself. And I think at the end of the day, the idea of cutting the cord affirmatively on Ben Roethlisberger is something that Art Rooney thought the fan base wouldn't take kindly to, especially because what would have happened? The entirety of his last year with the Steelers would have gone without the fans being able to go watch him play. So if nothing else, there was a sense, I believe, that there's got to be an opportunity for him to have that one last year where they can come watch play. So we're not going to make him an insulting offer where it's clear that we're the ones who said go away. If he chooses to go away, fine. But we're not going to be the ones that make an offer that is so low there's no way he's going to accept it. Again, I don't know if that's true, but I do know that the people that I talk to, it's almost become kind of a given that they were hoping at a certain level that he would say no thank you, I'm just going to walk away.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. Okay, Mike, where do you think their starting quarterback in 2022 comes from?
Well, the world has changed when it comes to veteran quarterbacks in the NFL. And it started 2 years ago with Tom Brady going to Tampa. And for a variety of reasons, we've seen movement of veteran quarterbacks like never before. It used to be if you had a veteran quarterback who was good enough to do the job, you never let go of him because there was no guarantee you were going to find anybody better. Now you see teams willing to cut the cord on a veteran in the hopes of finding someone better or someone different or whatever the case may be. There's a much greater willingness by the teams to look around, and there's a willingness by some of the veteran quarterbacks to try to force their way out of a situation. Tom Brady forces his way to free agency. Carson Wentz forces his way out of Philadelphia via trade. Both Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers tried last year to get out of their arrangements. So I think the Steelers are in a position where, with the coaching, with the organization, with the fan base, with Najee Harris, with the receivers, now, the offensive line needs to get better. The defense is so good. I think that the best play is just kind of sit back and wait for the phone to ring and wait for the conversations to happen, those conversations that never occurred 5 levels down, to start to gauge interest as to who wants to come play for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. You know, the video of Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin sharing glances when they played this year. If I'm a veteran quarterback and I'm looking for a better place to play, a place where I think I got a better chance to win, Pittsburgh's on my short list. And I think if the Steelers play it the right way, not only do they get somebody who's going to make them much better, but maybe they can do it under terms that are extremely favorable financially, because maybe you could get somebody to take less money so they could go out and upgrade along the offensive line, for example. So I think they're in a very good position. There's not going to be any clarity, at least for now. Step one is let's see who ends up coaching where and who the coordinators are where. But then once that quarterback carousel starts to spin, they could end up coming out of it with a major upgrade over their quarterback room in 2021.
Oh, that is music to my ears.
How major, Mike? Like, how major are we talking here, do you think? I know there's a lot of moving parts you just described, but Pony's ears just perked up like his eyebrows might have disappeared.
Well, because Steelers media keeps trying to tell us it's Mason Rudolph next year, Mike, and I'm almost having a heart attack over that.
I'll hit myself in the head with my own helmet if it's Mason Rudolph next year. I mean, my goodness. Have we not seen enough? Have we not seen enough?
Yes.
What more do we need to see? All due respect to Mason Rudolph, and I know whenever you say that, it's too late to avoid the insult. Have we not seen enough to know that Mason Rudolph is not the guy around whom you build? He's not even the guy who should be your backup. My guess is they were hoping that Dwayne Haskins would show them enough this year that they could make him number 2 and make him the guy who would have been the guy to take over for Ben Roethlisberger if the explanation is, hey, this guy really was a first-round talent. It was just a dysfunctional, toxic mess for him in Washington, and he didn't get a chance to develop, but he didn't step up. It can't be Mason Rudolph. It can't. And look, hey, this is the time of year when the BS is on overdrive, and what happens is the team pushes to those who cover it. It's Mason Rudolph. For example, and I'm not saying this is happening, but I've been doing this 20-plus years now. You know, whether it's the Browns pushing to the media that Baker Mayfield's our guy next year, or the Eagles saying with a straight face Jalen Hurts is our guy next year. You know, anybody who doesn't have a short-list, high-end franchise quarterback is wise to consider their options. So to the extent that the Steelers can bait the hook on the notion that they're sticking with Mason Rudolph, that allows them to enter this process from a position of strength because they don't come off as desperate to find that upgrade that is going to thrust them even deeper into contention. And hey, if you watched garbage time of the game on Sunday night, and I'm sure that most Steelers fans probably had thrown a shoe at the TV by then, Chris Collinsworth was saying some stuff in the second half that sounded like he knows something more than what he was letting on about what's going to happen. I don't know whether that means Aaron Rodgers. I don't know whether that means Russell Wilson. I don't know if that means Deshaun Watson, for crying out loud. But I think that the Steelers are in a prime position to get one of these veteran quarterbacks looking for a better spot, because when you look around the league, where are the good spots? I don't think Aaron Rodgers should leave the NFC North. He can dominate that division for as long as he's able to play. Why would you leave there and jump to the AFC North or the AFC West? But still, when you start looking at the teams that are out there, there isn't a long list of places where you could start checking boxes and saying, you know what, I could do pretty well there. And I'd have the Steelers at or near the top of the list of the place where a veteran quarterback could come and really make some noise late in his career.
If Rodgers and Green Bay win the Super Bowl, do you think that patches things up enough that he stays, Mike?
Well, I've got all sorts of theories on Rodgers. I don't know if he was ever serious about leaving. I think that he is so... And it's amazing that he gravitated toward a competitive sport where half the people are going to hate you no matter what. He is so intent on not becoming a villain in Green Bay and not exiting the way that Brett Favre did. I can't imagine him ever cutting the cord with the fan base and with the locker room and with the coaching staff. And you know what? He made his point this year. Whatever he did, however he played it out, he got the attention of the front office. And I think they fully appreciate him right now. And I think he stays if they do the right thing and offer him a contract that pays him dramatically more than $33.5 million a year, which is exactly the same that Jared Goff is getting in Detroit. If they come to him early and they make him an offer that is obvious that they value him, that they appreciate him, that they want him to finish his career, it basically makes up for drafting Jordan Love and makes Jordan Love irrelevant, then I think he'll stay. And I do think a lot of what he does is calculated. He likes to mess with people. He likes to be the center of attention. And I think ultimately he does not want to be a villain in Green Bay.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, who, by the way, was the most popular man on this show last week because you picked the Steelers to win. And so many of our fans were like, hey, Mike Florio knows what he's talking about. The Steelers can actually pull this off. So, Mike, you're already in the good graces of our listeners. So why don't you tell them right now where they can get your new book that's out in a couple of months, Mike?
All right, let me say this. I was feeling pretty damn good, too. When T.J. Watt scored that touchdown,
yep,
I was feeling pretty good because that's how it was going to happen. I didn't consider that the Chiefs were going to find the gas pedal and just put it to the floor and score 42 points. Other than that, I really felt like I was onto something. Playmakers comes out March 15th to look at the last 20 years in the National Football League with a long list of essays, short, digestible chunks based on stories that have happened, things that have occurred over the past 20 years, that when you read about it and when we reflect on it, we learn something about how the NFL operates, where its flaws are, where its strengths are, and where its future lies. Comes out March 15, available for pre-order now, wherever you buy your books, online, wherever. You can pre-order it, and you'll have it in your mailbox on March 15. And I appreciate you guys.
Mike, are we high enough on the Mike Florio media power rankings where maybe Chris and I could get an advanced copy
of
this book? Is that possible?
My birthday is within a couple days of that release date, Mike.
If I recall correctly, the publisher recently sent me a list of all the people in the media who are getting one, and I think I remember scratching your names off of it. I remember doing that.
Let's go, Mike.
I have to go back and check. Now, I think you'll be getting one. It's amazing to me how many of them they're sending out. It's like I wanted to say, I think some of these people would probably buy it. Like, why are we giving it away?
Fair.
But hey, if they want to print them up and send them out, more power to them.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. You always give us great information. You're the best, man.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. See you.